Here we are for week 4 screencast. All we're going to cover today is basically organizing our audio on our timelines here and our tracks. What we learned before is basically how do we organize these tracks, and now we got to figure out what are we going to do with them. Why did we organize it this way? And what we talked about in class was simply the reason we created so many different dialogue tracks is because in a given scene, we want to isolate every unique shot, every setup on its own track. The example that I brought in, this exterior hotel scene, is, I ran into little issues with this because I already did a lot of dialogue editing in Final Cut Pro, so I got rid of a lot of stuff, and it's kind of difficult to demonstrate with this scene. I haven't really got a better example right now, but you'll notice that I've already went ahead and organized this by putting every unique shot on its own track. Now, it's not every shot goes on a new track, but you'll notice that here is shot 44. Here's shot 44. Every place I use that shot 44, that setup, there's more than one take. This is take 3, this is take 4, and over here is take 1. I can use all the same takes on the same track, but it's just that particular shot goes on its own track. If I had more than one shot of 21, anytime I use that shot, this shot 21, that setup, it's going to go on this Dialog B track, and so on. Normally, you'd see this used, like let's say I'm having a conversation I'm filming a conversation where there's shot, reverse shot, okay? A close-up of character A, close-up of character B, cutting back and forth. Well, it would kind of look like a checkerboard. I'd have shot 1, shot 2, shot 1, shot 2, and you'd see it kind of go back and forth from one track to the other as we cut back and forth from one close-up to the next. That's the way it needs to be organized. In this particular scene, I seem to be moving from one setup to the next. I do very little going back and forth between two shots. That's the way it looks on here. But if I hit playback, you'll notice I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mute these shots. I'm going to mute all of that. Well, let me just do this. I'll hit playback here. Okay. There's over the shoulder, medium shot. Back, now we're into a medium shot. I don't know why I'm getting such horrible playback. Oh, yeah, because I'm trying to record this thing.
That room. Come on, man.
Now we're in a wide shot.
I'll get it straightened out. Those fuckers made a mistake. I said I did everything.
Now, see, now we cut back to this shot. Okay. Now this is
Everything they told me.
This is set up 45. This shot is set up 45. But we saw this shot here. Let's see, where was it? We saw a shot here. Here.
I told you to vacate that room.
That says shot 43. It looks like the same setup to me. Now, is it the same setup as 43? Is 45 and 43 really the same setup? Probably. I didn't really organize this all that well. I didn't plan ahead when I was naming these shots. And when I brought this in, I should have been naming every, all of my coverage. I should be naming it properly with scene number, shot number, and take. So it should look like something like I could say 001, meaning scene 1, period, 505, meaning shot 5, and then B, A, B, C for take. That, once I establish a naming convention, I can use that, and once I get into my sound package, it's real clear what shot I'm working with, what shot goes with what, and how to organize everything. So if there's any incentive to be organized, there, it's right there. If you're not organized in production, it ain't gonna get. It's not very easy to get organized in post. Make your life easy. Just stay organized through the whole process, and you'll save yourself a lot of headache and time. Okay, so I've got this organized now. The next step is to basically start smoothing out sound bumps. Sound bumps are whenever I hear a shift in room tone. So
What the fuck is going on here, man?
You can't stay here.
you'll notice that when I go from here to here, I'll notice a noticeable increase in the amount of traffic noise in the background. That's because behind Peter, which is this actor right here, behind him is a freeway. Behind Troy, this actor, is just, well, there's a building here, and that's going to reflect sound, but the microphone isn't pointed directly at the freeway. So I'm hearing more traffic noise here. So how do I smooth all this stuff out going from one shot to the next? The only way to do it is using room tone. Room tone is how we're able to create smooth transitions from one shot to the next so it's not noticeable. That's the goal, to create the illusion of evenness, to make it sound like, or keep our attention away from transitions in room tone sound, and so we can just focus on the dialogue. If we draw the audience's attention to sound bumps, they get taken out of the story and they're not listening to anything anybody's saying. So we've got to smooth all this stuff out. Room tone is without room tone we can't edit this dialogue. We can't get rid of the sound bumps. Using room tone is not probably like you were taught. I mean, recording 30 seconds of room tone at the end of a setup or end of a shot at a location, that is not really the kind of room tone we need to be using. That is sort of an ambient recording that we may have to use if, in extreme situations. But when we want to create room tone between what people say, we want to use the room tone of, when I transition from this shot to this shot, this sound to this sound, I need to use the room tone for this shot, finding room tone in this recording to be able to transition to the room tone in this shot or this recording. And I never want to put just a track of room tone at the very bottom of this to just sort of drown out. I could probably turn on a vacuum cleaner in my room here, and the noise from that would drown out the transitions of background noise. Is that a good idea? No, of course not. So we only want to have 100% of room tone at any one particular time. I don't want, if I add a track of room tone here, this plus whatever I add, and I think I did that before. I mean, I think that's this right here. This is like a bed of room tone that I added just underneath the whole scene, just to hide the transitions in room tone. That's not the way to do it, because this room tone and the room tone in this shot are now added together to 200% room tone. I don't want to do that. I can do this with only having 100% room tone, and that makes it a lot less noise to listen to. So let's look at basically how we do that. So what I need to do is I need to have some room tone at the end of this shot and room tone at the beginning of this one that I can cross-fade between the two, so that as this room tone is going out, this room tone is coming up, and I always have just 100% room tone. Okay, so let's listen to this little last bit here and make sure that I have clean room tone. I don't want to have anything but room tone. I don't want footsteps. I don't want chattering. I don't want any noise other than just the clean room tone of that shot. So I'm going to select a little region here. I'm going to solo just this track, so I'm only listening to this track, and I'm going to loop this and just listen to this room tone to see if that's what I got, just plain good old room tone. Okay, I'm hearing something. I'm hearing him making some sort of noise. So let me trim it down a little bit and play it again. Okay, I'm still hearing something. Still hearing something. Okay. What I might have to do is drag out a handle here. This is my handle. I'm going to drag it out, because what I need to do is be able to find clean room tone to add to the end of this track. So let's hear. Oops, let me select a region so I'm only listening to this track. Okay, I don't have room tone here. And let's see, let's drag this out some more until I get, so here he's talking again. Oops, I just changed the volume. Let's do this. Okay, that's clean room tone. Right there. What I've got right here is clean room tone. So how can I use this? I want to use this. What I would do, and this is the way I suggest doing it, is I would go ahead and select this audio. I'd copy it. I hit Apple C to copy, or I can go up here and edit, copy. And what I want to do is I want to paste this onto my work track. Okay, my work track is where I'm going to be able to do, you know, I don't have anything here except for stuff I'm working on. So this work track too, I don't know where one went, but that's fine. So what I'll do is I'll click here, I'll drag my playhead somewhere. And I'll make sure I select this track, and then I'll hit paste, Control or Apple V, and I've pasted it. And it looks like all that I copied is what I highlighted. Okay, let's solo this. All right, I'm gonna turn solo off here. So I'm only listening to this, and I'm gonna drag out a region, just the region of what, you know, what's here. So I'm gonna hit play, and that's it. Just that room tone. So I selected the region. Once I had it selected, I hit copy. I went down to my work track. I hit paste. The reason I put it on my work track is if when I hit paste, I don't accidentally put it on top of somewhere else or accidentally nudge anything out of sync. I mean, this is all about making sure that we work efficiently and don't make more work for ourselves by knocking things out of sync and then trying to figure out what happened. Okay, I went down here, pasted on a work track. Now what? Okay, let's go back up here because I was working on this track. I'm going to turn off solo here so I can hear this track. And remember, I pulled out this handle. Well, I want to drag this handle back. And I'm going to go ahead and just drag it back to here. And I want to make sure that I've got, you know, once he finishes speaking, I got nothing else going on in here because all I want is clean room tone.
Buy property now! Buy property now! Buy property now!
Okay, so I've got him speaking. And what I want to do is take this, I'm going to drag it up here, and you'll notice that it automatically, as I drag it over, it automatically creates a cross dissolve for me. It doesn't overwrite anything. All it's doing is layering the sounds on top of each other in the track and cross-fading between the two, and that's a real helpful, fast way of doing it. I don't want to just have this butted up against it because I'll probably hear a little click or pop as it changes, you know, as one audio file ends and the new one begins. The crossfade makes it a smooth transition. So now I have a smooth transition to room tone here, and now I need to create room tone right here so that I can, as I crossfade out of this, let me go ahead and scale this up a bit so we can, you know, see what's going on. Okay, and I'm going to zoom in just so that we're real clear about what we're seeing happening here. All right, so I've crossfaded from my audio clip to just clean room tone that was from this shot, okay? And I'm going to take this little handle here and I'm going to drag this out, and I'm going to go ahead and drag it until we get to this crossfade, and it won't let me drag it any further, so I'm just going to butt it right up against that, and I'm going to go ahead and just put it at 20. That's just, that 20 gives me an idea of what this little log curve looks like, okay? So this is done. Now we need to add in a, well, you know what? Notice that I have this room tone transitioning out, and I've got it to right here. You'll notice that right here, he says something. That's dialogue. So let's listen to that.
The fuck.
Okay, that's his line. I don't want to have any room tone from the previous shot over anybody else's line. So I'm going to want to take this, I'm going to drag it to right before he speaks, so that I transition out of that room tone before he ever says anything. The reason why is because when I'm transitioning up from room tone, I I have to make sure that I have volume all the way up by the time he speaks. I don't want to have any crossfades over anybody's dialogue, because that would make the dialogue volume reduced and inaudible. It's going to affect our ability to understand what he's saying. Can't compromise that. So let me solo this track. Let's listen for the room tone here to see if we've got good room tone. Sounds like I got a little click or something in there. Let me just go ahead and make sure I'm not just catching the very beginning of him saying something. Still hearing a click. Okay, there seems to be a little click, a little noise at the beginning of this, so I'm going to have to find some other room tone somewhere else. Let me go ahead and start by dragging out my handle here. All right, I've got, it looks like I got some noise here, but let's see if we can find some clean room tone in here somewhere.
The fuck is...
I'm going to guess, I'm going to look at right here. That sounds like good room tone to me. Let's do what we practice. Okay, I've got that little bit selected. I'm going to hit copy. All right, I'm going to go down to my, let me collapse this a little bit so we can get to our tracks a little easier. I'm going to go down to my work track. I'm going to highlight my work track here, and I'm going to click in here and just hit paste. And there's that little bit of room tone. So I'm going to go back up to this track. I'm going to take this handle. I'm going to drag it right up to right before he says something. Let me zoom in so I make sure that I don't accidentally trim out any of his dialogue. Let's listen.
What the fuck is going on?
Let me drag this out a little bit further. Notice it's snapping. If I hold down the Apple key, while I drag, it kind of temporarily turns snapping off, so I can make really small adjustments here. All right.
What the fuck is going on here, man?
Okay. All right, so I've got it to where that this little edit part happens right before he speaks. I'm going to go ahead and adjust this so that I don't have, I got my room tone transitioning out right before he speaks. So now what I got to do is add the room tone from this shot right here, probably just enough to cover this fading out with fading up, and we should have a clean transition. All right, I'm going to go ahead and reduce my area here. I'm going to scroll up. I'm going to take this little room tone, I'm going to drag it up to here, and you'll notice that it tried to do a little cross dissolve there. Not what I want. Now, if I wanted to, let's try this. I could probably, like, I zoom in, zoom way in here, and let's go to the beginning of this. If I wanted to, I could maybe drag this over just a tad bit. But what's going to happen here is I got room tone, and he speaks right at the beginning here, and the fact, the attack of his little bit of dialogue here is going to help hide the fact that we have a little audio cut here where we're just room tone. But let's go ahead and kind of tighten up this little crossfade first. I'm going to drag this over to right here. That's where this crossfade starts to fade out here, and we're going to fade up here. So I'm going to take this over right to the end, and I'm going to drag it up to 20, because that's what our little crossfade. So now we have, as this goes out, this goes up. They overlap. I've got no more than 100% at any given moment through this crossfade, and we go from his dialogue to his dialogue, from one setup to a totally different setup, and we should have a nice smooth transition. So let's go ahead and give that a listen. I'm going to go ahead and turn off solo, and I'm going to drag a little region here, and let's listen to it. Hold on, let me grab it. Boop, 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 boop. All right, let's listen.
I want you off my property now.
The fuck is going?
I want you off my property.
Let's drag this out so we can hear the fact that it's a smooth transition.
Now.
The fuck is going on here?
I want you off my property now.
The fuck is going on?
Okay, we hear absolutely no sound bump. That is what you need to do from one shot to the next. Every transition from one audio shot to the next is got to have this nice clean transition. And that's really, it's tedious, but that's all there really is to it. I mean, in a lot of situations, in some situations, I might be able to just use the bit of room tone at the end of the sequence to transition to new ones. Now you'll notice this is a different situation, and we'll talk about that next. But in this example right here, I had to find room tone. The room tone at the end of this particular take wasn't usable. There was a noise and junk in it. I had to find clean room tone to do this whole transition. I had to do the same for this shot. Let's go to this one. This is a different example. I don't seem, because these lines seem to be almost overlapping in their dialogue, I don't really have room between what somebody says here and somebody says here to do a crossfade. So how do I transition it? I don't want to do something like this. Oops, I don't want to do something like this. Why wouldn't I want to do something like that? Because right here I've got 200% room tone. I got the room tone for this shot and the room tone for this shot happening at the same time. That's just too noisy. I don't want to do that. So I'm not going to do that. Here's something else. Sound bumps are about perception. I can't hear it if I hide the sound, the room tone sound, the shift anyway, behind what something somebody's saying. For instance, right here I've got audio of him saying something, and I've got like the loudest point here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this clip right there. So as he's speaking, this little room tone comes in, and it hides it. It hides the fact that he's speaking. But then what I want to do is I'm going to put this one right on top of, the loudest point in here, so that as this going out, and I don't want to cut off what he's saying there. So maybe this would be a better point here. So let's just listen to this and see if we can hear the sound bump.
What's going on here, man?
You can't stay here.
Okay, it's jumping in. So I've hidden it, but let's go ahead and transition this to right before he starts to speak. Now, this isn't a perfect world because I have 200% room tone, but I'm not sure what other options we have at the moment. And I'll go ahead and fade this out 20 right after he's his line finishes. So I'm not fading out any of his dialogue. So let's look at this situation here.
You can't stay here. You can't stay here.
It's definitely louder, but oops. But that's the best we can do in that moment. Because he's right on top of his line there. You know what would be better? Let's do it this way. I'm gonna do it like this. I'm gonna drag this right before he says something. Hold down my Option key right there, and this little cut is hiding right behind his line. So I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna drag it to here, and let's see if that sounds just as good, if not better.
On here, man.
You can't stay here.
On here, man.
You can't stay.
Okay, I can, if I'm listening for it, I can definitely see the shift in room tone, and there'll be ways of approaching how to even that out later. But as far as eliminating the sound bump, I've done a pretty good job of hiding this shift in room tone behind the people's, what these guys are saying. Here, I've obviously got plenty of space to, add in that to cross dissolve or crossfade room tone. So I can do that here. I need to audition each one of these to make sure that I've got nice clean room tone here. So I'd solo this, I drag this out, and I hit play. There's a little noise in there. I'd probably, that's not too bad. Let's solo this one and see what we have on this one. I'm hearing a little click on that one. There's a little bit of a click there. You know, I probably have some decent room tone here. If, for instance, I had a nice clean room tone at each one of these, I could just do something like this right here. So I've got 20. I don't want to make sure that I don't interfere, so it happens right before he speaks. I'll drag this to right where this, let me turn solo off so we can, there. So now it snaps to where I begin the crossfade, and then I'll take this and right up to where we crossfade, and so now we have a clean crossfade between these two shots, and we should have
Room.
Come on.
Room.
a nice clean transition, no sound bump. So that's kind of what you need to do. There might be cases where you need to build room tone from bits and pieces from a shot. Sometimes you'll get a shot that doesn't have a lot of room tone in it, but you're going to have to create room tone. You can use room tone from another take of the same shot if you have to. You might have to piece together 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pieces just to get enough room tone to transition. If that's the case, if I have a bunch of little cuts of room tone, how do I get a crossfade to go across several of them? Well, you get about 4 or 5 strung together, and you export that as a as an audio file by itself, so that it's all one audio file that you can re-import as one clip, put it in here, and then you can crossfade between that and your next shot. It's a pain in the ass, but that's what it takes to get really good professional sounding audio. So, you know, going through all of this, you know, here's a transition where somebody's speaking on top of somebody else, so I'm going to want to hide the cut behind the attack of his dialogue here, and where he's, you know, where it leaves out, I'm going to drag this to right there where it leaves out of, you know, what he's saying there. It's not the best situation because I have to live with 200% room tone here. Now, I could probably take this and automate this, or, you know, snip this little bit of room tone out here. Let's listen to what that sounds like. Okay. So, you know, I really want to be careful that, you know, what I want to do, I could probably take this and just hit delete, so I get rid of that room tone. I just hit the delete key once I had that selected. So I get rid of room tone here, but I'm going to run into the same issues. I got to make sure that I'm hiding it behind the attack of somebody else's dialogue. And, you know, sometimes crossfading just this little bit right here is going to help. So let's just listen to this chunk here and see how successful this is.
No.
Oh, I'm soloing tracks here.
To do. I'm not. They told me to do. I'm not. They told me to do.
Okay.
I'm not falling for this.
Everything they told me to do.
I'm not falling for this.
Okay. I'm hearing
Everything they told me to do.
I'm not falling for this.
I'm hearing this room tone bumping in and out. So you know, the room tone of this shot here, which is Peter right here, the room tone here is much louder and noisier than what's in Troy's track. So I would have to do a bit more to try to clean this up. Maybe try a little noise reduction here to try to even it out. Or if all else fails, I've got to add just the room tone for this shot. I'm going to have to add it in to, you know, somewhere in here to try to smooth it all out. But, you know, that's adding noise, and I've got to figure out, is there a way I can approach this without having to do that. I do know that, let me go ahead and undo some of this. All right, I do know that the volume of this track is much higher than that one, so I want to get my levels straightened, and that's kind of what I want to do for most of this. I'll take this, I'll solo this, and just this region.
No. I'm not falling for this. No.
So you'll notice that it's between -9 and -6, which is kind of where it needs to be.
Falling for this. No. I'm not falling for this. No. I'm not falling.
But it's peaking at -3, which I probably don't want. I can probably take this volume down a little bit, and what I'll want to do is get it to peak right around -6.
Falling for this. No. I'm not 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 falling for this. No.
I'm going to add Troy's track so I can see exactly what his peak volume is.
Told me to do. They told me to do. They told me to do.
Okay, I might have take Peters down a little bit too much, because Troy was peaking. I'm going to go with what Troy's peak was on his recording. He peaked just like at -5. So let's go ahead and get Peters
I'm not falling for this. No.
-5.
I'm not falling for this. No. I'm not falling for this. No. I'm not falling for this. No.
Never mind the nuance of, you know, do I want them exactly the same level, or do I want, you know, the volume of Peter's retort, you know, his reply to be a little bit louder? Do I want to create the illusion of a escalating shouting match? I mean, this is more in the design of the dialogue, but that's not something we're going to approach right now, but that's just something to think about. But I've evened it out, and let's see if that helps with our room tone at all. So I'm going to back this up a little bit so we can hear the little sound bump. I'm going to turn off solo.
Told me to do.
I'm not
everything they told me to do.
I'm not
everything they told me to do.
I'm not
I'm still hearing a ton of room tone behind the shot. We'll explore some strategies of how to even that out another time. So that's basically it for, you know, your approach here. Just getting these transitions between each shot can be tedious, but if you're careful and you're using the room tone from each shot to transition and crossfade between the two, you're going to eliminate the sound bumps, and you're going to go a long way toward creating what is the our perception of evenness and consistency. And that there's a lot to be said for creating quality audio when we first eliminate the bumpiness without having to add a lot of extra noise. That's going to give us a lot of trouble later on. Okay. And that's basically it. The assignment was to go through this clip or one of your own assignments and basically organize the track, the dialogue, in this manner, and basically eliminating all the sound bumps. Okay, that's it. Hope that was helpful.